question number 1. How do we marry the idea, I don't recommend that without a prenup, but how do we marry the idea that lots of factors relating to obesity are out of our conscious control and that we need to lose weight to improve health? I don't know that those are like mutually exclusive.
Hence
mutually
the
inclusive.
reason for this question, that we can address that.
Yeah, okay. You want to start?
Sure.
All right, do the thing.
The implication in this question is that we necessarily must lose weight in order to improve health, which I don't think is necessarily accurate. There are tons of things. Even if an individual is carrying excess body fat, even if an individual has obesity, there are lots of things that can be done for them to improve their health, even if their weight does not change. And that can relate to physical activity, that can relate to many of the dietary substitutions that we talked about over the course of the weekend, right? So we talked about substituting the sources of dietary fats, for example, how that impacts cardiovascular risk, impacting, from the standpoint of their carbohydrate intake, replacing lower fiber sources for higher fiber sources, various other kinds of plant foods and fish and things like that, that if substituted into the diet, particularly if they're replacing some of those foods that Jordan described as being those that don't really generate a lot of feelings of fullness, satiety, or that tend to fail to suppress appetite. The highly palatable, hyper-processed packaged snack foods, treats, super tasty stuff, substituting that stuff out with some of these things, even if it does not generate weight loss in the way that we often expect those kind of interventions do, we can see substantial improvements in health. We can see improvements in blood cholesterol levels. We can see improvements in blood pressure. We can see improvements in blood sugar. And so we don't want all of this conversation around obesity to be 100% weight-centric, because that ends up leading to a lot of frustration when folks have trouble with it, because it is something that can be very challenging for lots of folks. So I think that it's important to convey the message that there are a lot of ways that we can go about improving our health. For those with excess body fat and complications of that, then definitely we can stand to improve health quite a bit by reducing that body fat. And we have lots of ways to do that, right? Through the lifestyle changes, medications, surgical options, things like that. But even if we don't reduce body weight, body fat, there are lots of ways that we can improve health. And so that is like the main reason, the main thing I wanted to get across with this question, because it really implied like the only way that we can improve health is by losing weight, which is definitely not the case. But the other side of this is this concern that comes up a lot when we discuss this kind of modern understanding of obesity as involving a lot of factors that are not within our conscious control. There's our brain, to simplify, has these kind of like two big parts. There's the cortex, the outer part, and then the subcortex is the inner part. And this inner part runs all of our subconscious processes, and tons of factors relating to obesity, appetite control, feelings of fullness happen in these subcortical regions, these areas that are beneath our conscious awareness and control. And so I don't think that conveying these ideas that these areas play a big role in obesity is like reason to lose all hope when it comes to managing overweight and obesity, but rather it helps to actually mitigate some of the frustration when everybody else in the world is telling you, just try harder. It's your fault that you're not trying hard enough to do this, right? This is, you're choosing to be this way. You are bad for that, right? It's actually much more accurate when we recognize that, hey, I didn't choose to be hungry. I didn't choose when I got full from this meal. And imagine going through your life ravenously hungry all the time without having chosen for that to be the case. And everybody else is telling you, just like, just don't eat. It's free to not eat. People say that all the time, as if that's like easy solution for obesity, right? So it's like comical, it's insulting, and it's unhelpful for people who are struggling with this issue. So it makes it easier for us to engage with this as a medical condition, as a disease process. If people are having trouble from the lifestyle standpoint, we can escalate to these medications, other options that can help with better regulating appetite, fullness, the lifestyle interventions. And again, even if it doesn't ultimately result in weight loss, we can substantially improve health and longevity through that anyway.
Yeah, I didn't read it as like, are there any non-independent, weight-independent, or weight-dependent ways that we can increase health? Like, yes, of course, there's many ways to improve health that are independent of what happens with your weight or body composition. I read it more like this existential angst, like, if we believe that a lot of these food behaviors are out of our conscious control, what then? It's like this changes, what we do. And I agree. I actually think it's a benefit Because instead of focusing on things that are not really modifiable, because you can't really choose what happens subconsciously to you, instead of wasting time and wasting effort and guilt and agonizing and shame over those stuff, you can focus on things you can change, or maybe within your control to change. You can try to adopt a high satiety or satiety promoting diet. For example, one that's higher in protein maybe than what you're eating, one that's higher in dietary fiber than what you're eating, one that has less ultra-processed foods. You can try adjusting your eating environment, your food environment, all sorts of stuff like that. Whereas a focus on willpower kind of ignores those things. Right?
I think the best example of that is you look at like intensive lifestyle intervention trials in the medical research, right? On average, you'd be lucky if maybe you get some like 5-ish%, maybe 5 to 8% if you're doing real good sustained weight loss in many of these trials that recruit average folks into these studies.
Yep.
Or you put them on something like semaglutide, one of these medications that we talked about that helps to better regulate this stuff in the brain. Boom, 15 to 18% weight loss. Did anything change about their willpower or their moral fortitude or any of that kind of stuff? Did they become better people?
You can be better people,
No,
yeah.
we just actually attacked the source of the problem more effectively, these kind of subcortical issues, instead of just telling them try harder.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, that's that.